Now, back with Ticky Fullerton.
Yes, and back to the market and turning to the small cap space, which we don't talk about enough, I think. We've seen a lot of money entering the sector of late. To find out about the opportunities, I'm joined by Dean Fergie from Cyan Investment Management. Dean, it's great to have you on the show, day one in this studio. I say it's been doing very well. Just how well has the small cap sector been doing compared to the index, compared to some bigger companies?
Yeah, I guess you've got to look over certain time frames, but probably in the last 6 months it's been doing incredibly well.
What's driven that?
I think what we've seen is that the larger end of the market's really kind of stalled in terms of earnings growth. You've seen, I suppose, Telstra be pretty disappointing in terms of its share price performance. The banks,
well, and the dividends as well, you know.
Well, that's right. I mean, Telstra was down sort of 25% a couple of months ago. So I think investors are actually looking down the spectrum in order to be able to find more value, because the value's just not there at the top end at the moment.
Is this all investors, including retail investors? Because one of the things about some of the smaller caps is that they're not covered by analysts, are they? So.
No, look, I mean, I can't talk on behalf of all investors. I think there's a certain element of investor that will just stick with big caps because they feel that they're secure. Brokers will only recommend the BHPs and the banks and the Wesfarmers and those big names. But I think as more and more people make a lot of money out of small caps, that kind of transcends society, and you hear about hot little stocks that people have done really well out of it, and greed takes over, and people want to find those. And you've seen that a little bit in Bitcoin at the moment as well.
Well, you mentioned greed taking over. Where greed takes over, then people sort of start losing their judgment a bit, don't they? So what about the risks involved in this sort of thing? Well,
look, the risks are that the price people pay for stocks, they don't deliver on the expectations. And often the share prices actually move ahead of people's expectations. So you've actually got a time frame in where you can actually make a lot of money even for stocks that aren't delivering. And there are stocks out there that we think have got horrendously overvalued valuations in the market for what they've actually got in terms of earnings and their outlook. But the share prices keep going up. So I guess
it's about when you're in, when you're out. But that's true of the whole stock market at the moment, isn't it?
A little bit, but we will see. We've seen some stocks out there that have got valuations of hundreds of millions of dollars, and in some cases, very, very small revenues, and it's just really, really hard to justify.
So how do you talk to your clients about getting involved in small caps?
Yeah, well, I suppose clients outsource their investments to us.
Yes,
so I guess they trust us to make the decisions on behalf of them. So we spend a lot of time seeing hundreds of businesses a year, but only picking a handful of them. The issue with the small cap space is that there's a lot of risk out there that for every great investment, there are probably 11 or 15
So
bad
what
ones.
parts of the small cap sector attract you? Is it segment-wise, sector-wise, or is it in terms of how they're structured, or is it a start-up as opposed to...
Yeah, look, what we say is, first we want to see companies that are commercially proven, so that they're actually generating revenue. They don't necessarily have to be profitable, but if they've just got a concept or a drug in development but not making any money in terms of revenue, we don't want to know about it. So
that pulls away a lot of the biotech, for example.
Oh, like the whole sector, I would say, and no resources explorers, those kind of businesses. So anything that's actually got revenues and is approaching profitability, we'll look at.
So
and we think
specifics, have you got any companies that you could tell me about, specific examples and why you like them?
Yeah, so recently we've been invested in Afterpay Touch. Now that business has actually got quite significant revenues now, but it's built it off a very, very low base over the last year, and that's going incredibly well in terms of its performance. We've also invested in a company that's consolidating accounting practices, which doesn't sound very sexy, but it's coming from a very small base. They've got sort of 14 accounting practices, and as the principal of Kelly Group will say, Brett Kelly says, governments want to continue raising taxes. Tax act gets more complicated. Investors or individuals want to reduce their tax. So tax is a great place to be. So
and where do most of these companies on the dividend front, are they really growth stocks, or do they also have dividends?
Yeah, they're generally all growth.
Yes.
I mean, some of them pay very, very small dividends, I guess, to show that they're actually generating cash and paying that back to investors. But we want to see companies that are actually reinvesting back in themselves, that they're not getting a return of 4 or 5% at the bank. They're returning in, they're investing back in their own equity at kind of 15 to 20% or more, and really growing that equity capital base. So
do you look at a certain type of management as well?
Look, it's really easy to say, let's just invest in quality management. I think it's a really easily throwaway line. How you judge that, I think it's a consistency of message. So investors or a management that say something and deliver on it, and then say something else and deliver on it, it's joining those dots.
How about have a bit of a track record?
Absolutely. I mean, anyone could tell a good story that they've got the best product and they're getting great revenues and the company's undervalued, but the proof's got to be in the pudding. So we like to see a track record over, 6 to 12 months at least.
And so how many companies would you be across at one time?
Oh, very closely. Well, we own in our portfolio about 20 or 22, and we'd probably follow closely maybe 40 to 50. It's really hard to keep on top of many more than that.
Yep,
I think.
Yep. And,
Yeah,
and
really
your
closely.
team consists of how many?
It's myself and one other partner.
Yeah, so between you're across maybe 10 stocks that
Yeah.
you're invested in, and then a few more beyond that.
We try and do everything unanimously. So it's not that Graham runs half the portfolio and I run the other half. We do everything together, and I think that's a really kind of good safety net. That I'll really be excited about something, and he'll say, "Hang on, Dean, that's." You're getting too excited. I'll probably step back and go, "Yeah, you're probably right." So, and I think that's sometimes the individual
story,
investors, they don't have that confidence. They've got someone to buy something, and they're at the end of the phone going, "Yeah, oh, it sounds good, I will." And you need that kind of, just
Good.
someone.
Good window on small caps. Dean Fergie, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Ticky.
And before we go, I mentioned that we're very proud to have received not one but 2 News Corp awards on Friday night for business coverage and for Best Scoop, which was won by our great reporter Leo Shanahan, seen pictured here with Sky News boss Angelo Frangopoulos as well. Also congrats to Paul Murray, who picked up a 3rd award for Sky News, which he couldn't pick up because he was busy delivering all that news on Friday night. It's been a huge 10 months on our show, and so a huge thank you to all those who've made it happen. Producer Sarah Dowling, director Michelle Stewart, James Dagger-Nixon, Nadine Blaney, Nadia Benucci, and the head of Sky News, of course, Angelo, and many more in front and behind the camera. You know who you are. Thank you all very much. And that's all for the show tonight. Tomorrow night, Bendigo and Adelaide Bank CEO Mike Hurst. Thanks for your company.
Watching Sky News Business, Australia's business channel.